So I come in the office and fan me. My eyes are watering.
But I think if you're a good listener and you ask a lot of questions, you're able to build trust, right, with somebody.
Right.
So I think the ability to kind of listen, ask a lot of questions, got to be competitive. You've got to be motivated. You've got to be persistent. You've got to be passionate. I certainly worked hard before, but nothing like that first year, of SkillStorm. I couldn't sleep at night.
So they call you Never Nervous Girgis, right? And it sounds like the first time I've ever heard you were nervous was in a Kinko's. Welcome to the Opportunity Accelerators. This is the show where professionals at any stage of their career can learn how to level up from those that have found success and have the scars to prove it. We like to think of the show as a mentorship and a podcast. Basically, we get to talk to a lot of smart people and learn from their experiences. I am Vince Verga, here with my friends and business partners, Justin Vianello and Joe Mitchell. And our guest today, this is very exciting. This is actually our fourth business partner, somebody that I've been business partners with for 21 years. I've known him since we went to college together at University of Central Florida. Actually, Hany helped me get my first job in the IT services industry, where we worked together for a few years before starting SkillStorm. So Hany, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, welcome, Hany.
Welcome.
Quite the dream team here.
Yeah.
San Diego night. There he is.
So a little bit more about Hany. Hany was born in Cairo, Egypt. His family immigrated to the United States when he was 8 years old. His father's an aerospace engineer, and his mom was a small business owner. Grew up in Satellite Beach, Florida. Attended the phenomenal University of Central Florida. Graduated in '94 when he got in with a degree in electrical engineering. When he got into IT services. With a company called Technosource, where we worked together. And Hany was perennially one of the top producers and leaders. He relocated out to San Diego in '96 to spearhead the West Coast expansion of Technosource. And then we launched SkillStorm in 2002. And some of you may not know the story. We had a company called SGIS, which was a subsidiary of SkillStorm, focusing on government contracting. And that was sold in 2010, and Washington Technology Magazine ranked SGIS the second fastest growing private government contracting firm in the country during that period of time. Since then, Hany, in addition to continuing with the growth of SkillStorm, has done quite a bit of private and angel investing. He's been pursuing his passions of travel and pickleball. and being a huge UCF fan, and he's also a devoted husband and father to 3 great kids, and proud to call him my friend and business partner. So welcome again. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you, Vince. It's almost like you, it's almost like you know me.
Yeah. The introduction wasn't very hard to write.
Well, that's a really nice welcome. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So Hany, we usually start off with an icebreaker, and today we thought it was a good idea to ask you if you had any particular party tricks that you might want to share with the audience.
This was Vince's idea, by the way. The we is a little strong in this.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to look away.
Yeah, if you're squeamish, look away now.
Right. Well, I didn't get much of a warm up.
You can put your kids to bed.
We're just going to go for it. Anyway, here it is.
Should we do a drum roll?
Yeah, okay. I can bend my fingers now.
Keep going.
And I can touch the back of my hand.
There we go.
There we go.
My eyes are watering. Joe,
it never gets easier to see, does it, Justin?
No. Joe, come in the office and fan me. My eyes are watering.
You've got... Get him a fresh Perrier. He's
Did we catch him on the camera okay? Did it come out?
Ooh.
Come out good?
I hope everyone put the kids to bed.
We all got to see that.
All right, good.
Yeah, we got to.
Never that close up, maybe, right?
Never broadcast to a worldwide audience. So this is absolutely going viral. There's no question about it. So Hany, obviously, I've known you for a long time. I guess, I think it would be cool to kind of start at the beginning. One of the things that I've always found, really fascinating is to think about, how successful that you've become and how you got your start. you mind sort of telling us the circumstance when you were younger and growing up in Egypt and what brought your family here to America and kind of sharing some of that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we moved to the States in 1978. I was 6 years old, actually, Vince. I think you had mentioned 8.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. And so, it's interesting because it's really one of my probably youngest childhood memories was flying over here with my dad and my mom. And the reason they decided to come was really for religious reasons. We were a Christian family in Egypt, and definitely the minority there. So I think is, based on religious asylum, they decided to move here. And interestingly enough, my mom's brother was married to my dad's sister, and they both lived here in the United States. They actually had a double wedding in Egypt. That's how we ended up here. I thank my lucky stars that they made that decision. I can't imagine what my life would have been like if we didn't get this opportunity. So really, it was just kind of a dream from the beginning. Really humble roots, a lot of humility. My mom worked in an Italian restaurant, serving, didn't really speak the language very much. My dad was pursuing a degree at New Mexico State University. So I saw early on what it was like to really grind and work hard and strive for their goals. And then he finally got a job in Florida 3 years later. After he graduated, we moved to Florida. He got a job at the Florida Solar Energy Center. And that's kind of where I grew up. I think Vince mentioned UCF, went to school at UCF, and then moved to San Diego in 1997 or 8, I think.
What was the toughest part of, sort of integrating into the American culture coming from Egypt? Was that difficult for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We were different, right? And maybe, even if people didn't perceive us to be different, it just felt like we were, right? We were darker skinned, and I had kind of a weird haircut, and my English probably wasn't all that great. And so I think you've got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder when you're growing up, trying to figure out where you belong and kind of finding your way, just to the journey.
What was it like to integrate yourself? Like, how long did it take before you actually felt, you were kind of more accepted, for wanting a better way to put it, in America?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I really started to feel more accepted and more comfortable probably when I got into college. My parents were still fairly conservative, still fairly strict. They were, very religious still to this day. So I think I probably, felt like I got more freedom when I went to college, right? And I think that's when I was able to really maybe be myself. Obviously, I got to meet a lot of people, join a fraternity, and I think life changed then because I was just really able to kind of get out of my comfort zone and get to meet new people and integrate into a much bigger net of people. So good question. I think probably first, second year of college, I would say.
So, Hany, you got an engineering degree from UCF, but you ended up in the IT solutions, IT staffing space, and government contracting. That's a fair divergence from where you probably thought you were going to end up when you were doing the degree. Do you want to talk us through how you ended up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first point is my parents were not happy about that move. Just to put that out there, I think my mom and my dad said, "You're doing what after graduation?" So I had worked a couple of internships in college, and I just it didn't fulfill me, and I don't know why. I do think that
these were like engineering type internships,
they were engineering,
right?
type jobs, and to backtrack a little bit. Look, I think 5 years of engineering at UCF was huge for me, right? It taught me work ethic. Again, it taught me how to grind. It was extremely difficult, a lot of all-nighters, learned a lot, gave me work ethic. But I think, I realized maybe it was after graduation, maybe it was before graduation. If I was going to become an engineer, I was going to get my salary. I was maybe going to get my bonuses every year, but it always felt like there was a ceiling, on your income, right? And so I really, I think I had some fraternity brothers, and they were talking to me a little bit about this IT services industry, and it was kind of the harder you work, the more you can make, and the more you can, the faster you can move up, and that's really what intrigued me about, really this industry. I took a job right out of college, loved it, loved, the energy, loved the, just the camaraderie with other people in the office. And obviously that's the path I decided to take. And I think my first salary right out of college was somewhere between 20 and 25K. And I think that was why, the family was not very happy, right? So it turned out okay.
And up until you found out about the IT services industry, had you, and I believe, you basically started your career in sales in IT services, right? Had you considered a sales job prior to that? Is that something you ever thought about?
No, not really. I think I started as a recruiter, and then, the next transition in that particular company was to move up to a sales role. I think, we quickly learned that sales is about asking a lot of questions, and I like to ask a lot of questions. So it was a kind of a natural position for me, I guess. But it worked out. I think it's interesting. I got a daughter who just started her sophomore year at Berkeley, and she's stressed out all the time about what life looks like after college and what she's going to do. And look, I didn't know until really after I graduated where I was heading and where I was going, and if this was something I was going to be successful at. And that's kind of the message that I try to give her. Not a lot of us know, right? And something clicks at some point, and you hope it's the right move.
When you started, how soon after did you realize, like, wow, this is something I enjoy doing? I could really be good at this.
When you started making money?
Yeah,
commission checks.
I was trying to think of something a little more thoughtful, Justin. Yeah, after I bought my Mitsubishi Eclipse, that's really when I realized.
For cash.
With a great job.
And left a gratuity.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, the money was great. I love the competitiveness of the job. Not only even internally, but just the ability to compete, with others. I think I kind of got that competitive spirit from my parents, and I played tennis in high school, so that always lived with me. I loved how competitive this industry was. I love the fact that we were helping people, right? Helping people find jobs, helping people, get closer to home or higher income. So, I mean, it just checked all the boxes for me, right?
What made you a good salesperson, professional?
I think we talked about a couple of those already. I mean, I think you've got to be extremely competitive. I think you've got to be money motivated. Because if you're not, if you don't care there's a ceiling in income, then what's going to push you to go harder, right? So I think the ability to kind of listen, ask a lot of questions, got to be competitive. You've got to be motivated. You've got to be persistent. You've got to be passionate. I mean, those are all the skills that you need, right, to be really successful.
Yeah, but knowing you, Hany, there's one actual big one that I think you've left out, which I think you're really good at too, which is building good relationships with people fairly quickly. So yeah, I'm surprised
and
you
asking
missed that
lots
one
of
out.
questions.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's one. Obviously you have to have trust, but I think if you're a good listener and you ask a lot of questions, you're able to build trust, right, with somebody. And I think that's really, the key, right, is getting to know somebody by asking, a lot of these questions, right. And understanding their problems and understanding their challenges, and that's part of it.
Can you think of a time with a customer back in those days where, maybe you had an aha moment about, sort of what it takes to, really make a customer happy and, kind of a above and beyond type thing? Anything that comes to mind?
I think something that I heard a lot from my my particular clients and my customers is just thank you for being so persistent and thank you for being so passionate about this, right? If I received a requirement at 6 o'clock at night, right, I wasn't going home and worrying about it the next day, right? I was passionate, I was persistent, I wanted to get that perfect candidate on that customer's desk the next day, right? And that was the feedback that I would get, right? It's like, wow, I can't believe it was that quick. I can't believe how much follow up and persistence you have. Now, did that always work out for me? No, but I think for the most part, I think that's probably what made me successful, is just that that energy and just really wanting to perform for your customer, right? It's that quick response, it's that quick trigger.
So, Hany, is there any person, as you look back, certainly in the early days and maybe even as you progressed, is there someone that stands out as a mentor who helped you through that? We know Vince has been your tormentor
besides me.
Yeah. But is there someone who stands out as a mentor that you believe guided you in the right direction?
I really give a lot of credit to my parents. I think I've got great qualities from both of them. My mom is a little bit more of the social butterfly. She's the one that's, going to the parties and the church events. And, she still to this day runs a health food store, in Melbourne, Florida, right? To this day, she's still hustling. And my dad really is the engineer. He's the mathematical mind. He's the analytical mind. That's where I get my numbers analytics from. So I think the combination, really helped me. And so to have a little bit and a little piece of, each of them, I think, really helps, right? And they're both humble and they're both, have a lot of humility. And I think those are important factors as well.
So back to, Technosource, that was, really a pretty tremendous story, extremely fast growing company. We found ourselves working there in the advent of the IT services industry. Obviously went on to launch, SkillStorm. But before that, can you talk about what you learned from the experience at Technosource that you thought, helped, further along once you started your own company?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think what I loved about that experience is I got to really participate in almost every job that the company would offer me, right? I learned how to recruit, I learned how to sell. I learned how to break major accounts. I learned how to run an office. Then I learned how to run, an area. And that was extremely helpful, right? Because I think, when it came to starting, the company with you, when we were now trying to coach, it wasn't just lip service, right? We had been there, we had done it, we had recruited, we had sold, we had run offices, we had looked at P&Ls. And so it really enabled us to have credibility when we led, especially after we, opened up our own company, right? And look, when we opened up our own company, we did it all over again. We started to recruit, we started to sell, we started to, do payroll, we were doing the accounting, we were running the P&Ls. So it was history repeating itself, right? So amazing experience, but I think, we just got to a point where I felt, at least for me personally, I just stopped learning. And then when we stopped learning, I think that's when I knew, all right, what's the next challenge here for us? Because I think we can do more than this. We can accomplish more than this.
And so talk about, obviously, when do you recall having a moment where, you got really serious about, okay, we're going to start our own company here. Like, talk about sort of that transition to, working for somebody else to being convinced that, you're going to give this a shot.
Yeah. No, I think on top of the, the learning point that I just mentioned, when I'm an entrepreneur, right? I love entrepreneurial companies, and that's what we had back then, right? When I started right out of school, we had just a few offices. Um, we had the opportunity, at least for me personally, to move to San Diego to open up an office for that company. I was tight with the owners. I was tight with the executive team. I was tight with guys like you. And it just felt like a fraternity all over again, right? With the camaraderie and the social aspect of it. And I think once they really decided to sell to a bank, that's when things really kind of changed. It really became less and less about the people and more about, the financial culture. And I think that really changed the atmosphere of the company. It didn't become, it just wasn't as fun as it was, previously. So I think the fact that, we stopped learning, that major change, happened. And I think, those two reasons were probably the biggest part of deciding to go out on our own.
I believe you started a company whose purpose is to accelerate opportunity. So you should probably get into a little bit of the starting of SkillStorm and how all that went down. So talk to us about that, right? You're getting ready to, we're, decided we were going to do something. Walk us through that, how it happened. And then, what was it like when you got started? What were some of the tough moments that you had to get through to, to be successful?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about, Technosaurus and the reasons for deciding to move on. Right. And I think you and I had plenty of conversations about when we were going to actually do this. Right. And I think once we finally, committed to doing it, you and I flew back and forth. If you don't know, Vince lives in Fort Lauderdale. I live in San Diego. And we flew back and forth, and we would sit in the dining room. We had whiteboards everywhere, and we said, "Hey, we're gonna create this amazing, business plan, right?" And I think over a year's, time period, we finally created what was like a 35, 40 page, business plan. And it's kind of fun to look at it now because we actually ended up executing on some of this stuff, which was really neat, right? Yeah, really crazy. But really the hardest part, creating the business plan was exciting and fun and for sure stressful, right? But really the hardest part was like just deciding you're going to quit your job. You're going to quit and you're going to leave your security behind, right? And your high paying job and really, for me personally, I had a year to make it work. It was either this new company called SkillStorm worked out, or it was I have to go back and go find another job, or I had to go sell the house. Like really, I mean, those were really what it came down to. So it was scary, and I certainly worked hard before, but nothing like that first year, of SkillStorm. I couldn't sleep at night. I was waking up in the middle of the night and I'd start, planning my day, and I'd get on, at the time, monster.com and Career Builder, and I was looking at resumes, until I could actually call people. And then I think probably the scariest thing is just how in the world am I going to find my first customer, right? And when is that going to come? Is it going to take a week? Is it going to take a month? Is it going to take a year? And that's scary. And so, once you do get that first customer, though, it's a huge relief. It's a huge weight off your shoulders. And, it was really just, I think I forgot to mention, it was really just starting out of a guest bedroom, in the house. And I didn't leave that room much. Me and Simon the dog for a year.
And how did you get your first customer?
Yeah,
who was it?
Good question. So I believe at the time it was Sempra, San Diego Gas and Electric. And when they found out that I had left the other company, they actually, kind of pursued me and asked me if I could still continue to work with them. Of course, I said yes. And then really, I just wanted to make sure those first 2 or 3 people were absolutely like perfect, right? Absolutely the right fit. Must have checked those references 100 times, right? Because I felt like, all right, this is it. You're one opportunity here to make a difference. And so, yeah, we kind of did a subcontract thing for a while. And then the CIO of that company actually wrote a letter and went to bat, for SkillStorm and said, hey, we need to get this company, on the primary vendors list. We went through a little bit of an RFP process and became, a vendor for Semper Energy. That was really the first customer.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How did it grow? Did it grow to anything significant where you've got 50 people there or anything
Absolutely.
like that?
Yeah, it was actually our largest customer for a while. And then we obviously got into the government work after 9/11. But yeah, for a while, it was definitely the largest customer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Hany, at what point did you realize that this thing was going to work? Right? Because you talk about you gave yourself a year. And so at what stage did you wake up one morning and go, wow, this could actually work?
Yeah. No, great question. It's interesting, right? You think, God, I just need to get to the right amount of income that I was making at my old job, and everything's going to be great, right? I can pay the bills, I can keep the house, and so you think, all right, well, let's just chug along, doing that and making a good living, and maybe I can do a little bit better than what I did before, and that's really kind of where it started. I would say is just get there. I had promised my wife at the time that we would go to Italy after a year. Like that was the promise. I was going to work hard. I was going to bust my ass, but the reward was a trip for both of us to Italy at the end of the year, right? So about 3 or 4 weeks before leaving, realized I had no employees in San Diego, nobody to answer the phone, nobody to run payroll, nobody to make sure people were taken care of if there's an issue, nobody to communicate with clients. I think Vince was on the East Coast at the time, but I didn't want to burden him with all my stuff here on the West Coast. So scramble to go out and hire an admin assistant. And that was really kind of our first employee, like our first W-2 employee. And that kind of launched this whole thing, right? Like, I think, after Vince and I started, I think we did like 3.8 million in revenue the second year, 11.3 million in revenue the third year, then 26 million the fourth year. It's like, wow, we can really do this. But it was really that first employee that kind of helped give me the confidence and Vince and I to go out and go hire people and really grow this thing. Because I think it was one thing that I realized really quick. Didn't matter how long I worked, I could do 24/7 without sleep, and we were only going to get, to a certain point, which wasn't very big.
So it's amazing to think that a vacation actually motivated you to start scaling the company.
So some things that have never changed.
That's right. That's exactly right. Touche.
So I want to just, in building SkillStorm and then, thinking back to writing the business plan. And I know we spent a lot of time really in a lot of detail thinking about what we really wanted the company to be like, just in terms of, what was our purpose and what was our values and how much do you think that helped with the growth of the company once we started to scale and hiring people, and just your thoughts on how important culture is in an organization generally?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I actually even think I mentioned it for the previous company, Technosource, how important that culture was for me personally. I love going to work, and I love the people that I was working with, and I love, the President's Club trips and the company conferences. That was all part of the culture. And I'm really proud to kind of say that I feel like, what we built that company on, in 2002 are the same exact beliefs that we have, today, right? Yeah. But back then it was really the key, that we always talked about. I'm sure it's in that business plan. Yes, we got to have a great culture, but how do you do that, right? We were highly focused on making sure we brought the best possible people in, right? We wanted to make sure that they had great tools, but that's really not what was important. What was really important is we gave them the proper training, to do their job. And, the Southwest kind of hire for attitude, train for skill, right? Like that was, kind of our motto here too, right? And that's something that you learn from some of the best companies in the world, but it was absolutely true. We were focused on training. We were focused on, making sure we had the right people. We were, for sure focused on making sure they were incentivized and held accountable. but rewarded for their hard work, right? And we did that again through some of the awards trips and yearly company conferences. Like, we just never missed a beat with any of that stuff. And I think that was critical, to that culture, and I think it is to this day.
So, Hany, in building the company, obviously there's ups and downs. Is there anything that strikes you as a real big challenge that you look back and say, hey, I wish I'd done that differently? If so, what is it, and what would you have done differently?
Yeah. I mean, this could be a whole book, right? There's a lot of
10 things pop in my head.
Is there a good one? Is there anything like big that comes to mind, or not? And maybe there isn't. We can cut the question.
No, look, I mean, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I love building, but certainly I've never been an accountant. I've never been a CFO in my life. And so, you really have to, trust people for those roles, and which I did, right? And maybe, the learning lesson here is don't always trust too much, right? Because you assume everything is going well, but sometimes it's not. And we came, close a couple times to not making payroll. We, changing accounting systems became a disaster. So you really got to make sure that there's checks and balances there, not too much trust, maybe keep your hands in that pile, more often than you think you needed, always check in. And so I think that's probably one, big learning lesson. And again, it still comes down to people, right?
Trust and verify.
I'll just a little bit of background here, Hany. I don't want to scratch open any scars, but so I'm walking through the DC Reagan National Airport, and I get a call from Hany, and he's with our I don't know if he was our controller or CFO at the time, and it's like, hey, we've got a big problem. Like, what's the problem? Now, the essence of the problem, just for everybody listening, is everything was screwed up. The new accounting system was screwed up. We weren't billing people. We weren't collecting, and the people we were collecting from, we were crediting to the wrong account. So it's a disaster. And essentially, my question was to our controller. I said, how much cash do we have? And his answer was, I don't know. And we had, I think we had 700 or 800 people at the time in the company, and we came within a week or two of missing payroll. So that was I'm pretty sure that's the moment you're referring to.
I think I just saw Joe's nose start bleeding a little bit more. He opened up his wound.
Joe's not going to sleep tonight.
But no, I mean, and it was a scary time. I mean, there was a lot of scrambling, and I remember Hany and I having to, we had always had a personal guarantee on all the loans we had for the company. We had finally been able to, get rid of the personal guarantees, and sure enough, we're walking back into our old banks and stuff and signing our houses over to keep the company afloat. So yeah, it was crazy.
But if there's one thing I learned in business, don't ever get too comfortable. Just don't get too comfortable. Something's always going to come your way, in business, right? And it's not always positive.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson. And, between COVID and everything else that's happened the last 3-4 years, you can never get too comfortable. You never know what's around the corner.
No.
So I got a question for you, Hany. When you think about, as the company's growing and what's some of the best memories that you have?
Oh man, gosh. I think the memories that really, stick out for me are really the company trips. I love getting to meet some of the people that I haven't met or interacted with. The crazy talent and the sing-offs that we have, like to me, when you see somebody get up on stage that you wouldn't ever expect to belt out a rap song or a break dance, I just get a kick, out of all of that. Right. So the most memorable really moments are, of course, the company trips. But, on the business side, I love the big wins, right? When you finally, work that dream client, or you work an RFP on the government side and you get that announcement that you won it. I mean, it's an incredible feeling. It doesn't last very long, because then you got to jump right into the performance and getting to work. Vince, JPL, I think, comes to mind as a huge win that really put us on the government contracting map. I mean, I think it was really our first true government prime contract, which we were this close to not getting.
I was just going to say, tell the story of delivering this box full of proposals to JPL.
So, Vince and I, the night before, were editing the proposal. I think we had our wives editing the proposal. And then next thing you know, we got to go in the morning and get it printed, right? And so I want to say it was due by lunchtime. I live in San Diego. JPL is kind of in Pasadena, right? So it's a 2.5-hour trip on your best day, right? So take it to Kinko's in the morning, or one of those companies, and it's just not going fast enough for me. And I'm like, I'm behind the counter like this, and I'm getting fidgety, and I'm usually pretty calm throughout all this, but I got to get on the road with this box of proposals. And so I actually jumped over the counter to help the individual that was doing whatever he was doing, and I just started putting stuff in binders and making copies, whatever I could do. I was super apologetic, but I'm like, I have to get, out of here. So get on the road, I get on the 5, and it's just a traffic jam, right? Probably put my life at risk. I was on the shoulder. I was going off exits and into exits, going 110 miles an hour at one point through LA traffic. I mean, really dangerous situation, but if you know anything about government contracting, if you miss that deadline, you're out. And Vince and I had put countless hours, into this thing, countless. Anyway, showed up sweating, 2 minutes to go. I think I gave the the procurement person a big hug as I arrived, and then just sat on the sofa in the lobby for 30 minutes just to cool down and calm down and just breathe again. But ended up winning it, and it was a dream. I mean, I think it was a $75 million contract at the time that really changed the trajectory of the company. Yeah,
I think it pretty much doubled the size of the company at that point. Pretty close to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
And
it was our first prime contract, it was another huge deal.
Yeah, it really gave us the momentum, the past performance, and the confidence to really go after government contracts, right?
Well, thank you for your incredible driving skills.
They obviously appreciated your commitment.
Happy to be on.
They called the guy at Kinko's and said, "Hey, make it as hard as possible. Let's see if he really wants it."
So they call you Never Nervous Girgis, right? And it sounds like the first time I've ever heard you were nervous was in a Kinko's.
I was going to say, Joe, really bad timing, right after my Kinko's store. What a segue.
Joe's been saving it.
So, Hany,
actually, one other point on the JPL contract. There was actually one person that showed up at 12:01 and they rejected, their proposal, and I felt awful for that person, right? Because it
probably felt even better for you.
Yeah.
One competitor knocked out of the race.
We have a chance.
Well, Joe, I was never nervous on the freeway when I was going through traffic, right? right in my comfort zone there.
So, Hany, when obviously SkillStorm's been around for over 20 years now. When you reflect back on things, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that that we've stayed entrepreneurial within the 20 years, right? We went from really a dead stop, of zero in revenue, and we built it up to 125 million. I think we, obviously sold our government contracting division, which I'm extremely proud of. That was a lifetime highlight for me, for sure, and I'm sure for you as well. We divested most of that commercial business and kind of started from scratch, all over again, right? And really built it from zero. And we've been able to pivot, right? Which I think is critical in business, because I think we were just chugging along for a few years. And that's when we were really lucky enough to meet Justin and Joe, another pivotal moment, kind of in our history here. Again, we always talk about people and hiring the best people. And I couldn't think of two, individuals that really fit our culture and have the morals and the values and were just a perfect fit. They clearly had the experience and the work ethic. And then not only that, but we have this, great, I mentioned fraternity a few times today, this great fraternity here on this particular podcast, and really proud that we were able to get together and really do this again, right? From an entrepreneurial standpoint, and then just survivability, right? Not many small businesses make it. Not many small businesses ever get an opportunity to sell their company, and not many, small businesses get to do what we're doing today, which is growing this again and having fun doing it, right?
Yeah, you mentioned, some of those people a lot of the people that we knew from UCF, we all worked together at one point, and it's kind of crazy. I think about a lot, if you think about all the companies that were started from people that have worked at SGIS and SkillStorm, I mean, it's got to be 20 something companies, right? It's pretty crazy.
It is amazing. I mean, in sports and in football, they talk about coaching trees, right? So I don't know what kind of tree we've got, but the staffing tree, the IT services tree, cool. It is pretty amazing. Clearly we were going out and hiring the right individuals, because a lot of those people are in charge of their own companies now. And I, actually proud of that too, right? Not only were we able to build it, but we were able to have, create these amazing careers and businesses for others too.
Yeah, I've had people ask me before, well, you went out, you were working for somebody else, you went out and started your own company. What if everybody that worked for you decided they were going to go start their own company? I mean, if they did for us what you and I did for Technosaurus, they could all do that and then go leave and start their own company. That would be a hell of a business model. I'd take it.
Exactly right. Exactly. That's a great point, because the sports analogy there is, and I'm a UCF guy, right? So, there's always debate on, do you hire the guy that's going to make sure that he's with you for 10, 20 years, or do you hire, the guy that's going to win you a bunch of games really quick and then be at the risk of moving on to their next, head coaching job or whatever it is, right? And for
Sure.
me, I liken it to business. It's always that person that's going to be hungry and motivated to really, do well their first years. And if they're good enough to go open up their own company, great. I mean, more power to you, and certainly a lot of work and a lot of challenges, as we all know, but, absolutely.
So when you think, we talked about, looking back and the things that you're proud of, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we could talk about. When you think about the future of SkillStorm, what gets you excited? Where do you see the company going over the next, 5, 10, 20 years? Yeah.
No, I think what we're doing is really unique and remarkable. I think that the problem with a lot of the IT services that we were doing in the past, it really had become, commoditized, right? What we're doing is we're changing, the playing field, right? We are helping, create the inventory that doesn't exist, right? We are doing things that many other companies really can't do, creating an inventory of IT professionals that doesn't exist. We know there's a skills gap there. We're helping solve that problem. So we're just unique in the fact that we're doing things today. We could go on and on about our university partnerships, right? But there's just things that we're doing today that are so unique that nobody else is doing. And I think that's really what I'm the most excited about for our future. And I do believe when we say the global leader, right, we can be the global leader in creating these tech careers and accelerating these tech careers.
Yeah, Hany, one of the things that I really love about working with you and working with Vince is that from day one, all you've ever talked about is accelerating opportunity and what that means to you and what it means to the company and how this has been a driving purpose for you in the organization. And I think the evolution of SkillStorm into essentially creating recruiters and sales professionals in the staffing industry that have gone on to start their own companies. I think one of the things that excites me, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, is that we're doing today, we're helping accelerate and launch the careers of software engineers. And what I'm really excited about is what their careers turn into 3, 5, 10, 15 years from now, and what types of startups they have and their CEO of 4, 5, 10, 20 years from now. I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, and I think really what's amazing to me, and especially as I watch some of our our videos of our trainees, I mean, it's amazing to me, right? They're veterans or they're college graduates, and they don't have maybe a ton of computer science background or computer programming background, but all of a sudden after 12 weeks they're qualified and certified, and they can hit the ground running with their clients. I mean, that's probably the most impressive thing about all of this is just that we can take somebody who's not ready and in 12 weeks have them not only be ready, but outperforming on the job. And to me, that's really the amazing thing about what we're doing here. And again, being able to do it at scale is incredible.
Yeah, I must say I'm looking forward to as we progress. I'm looking forward to hearing those CTOs and CIOs and CEOs of the future talk about the fact that SkillStorm gave them an opportunity and gave their career a boost that they wouldn't have got without it. And I think that's going to, for everybody on the pod, certainly for me, that's going to be incredibly rewarding, and certainly a validation of all the hard work and effort and the investment we've made in the space. To hear those, it would be extremely rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, ever since we've started in this industry 20 years ago, right? IT unemployment has been at 0 or below 0. That hasn't changed. That problem is not going away. It's actually only getting worse. And the fact that we can actually start affecting, that statistic is really what excites me, right? Because everybody's recycling the same talent over and over again, and they're on the job boards and looking for candidates with a certain amount of skill sets. Yeah, we're taking people that don't have those skill sets and giving it to them and getting them ready for the job. So we're solving a major problem, which is so cool.
Yeah, and we obviously talked about entrepreneurship and us being entrepreneurs and starting a company and that whole journey. And one of the things that I think about quite often, right, and you and I have seen it over the last 25 plus years, is because of the skills gap here in the United States, we've sent tons and tons of jobs overseas, millions of amazing, like the best jobs you can have. We send them overseas, but when you think about the opportunity cost of that, it's not, yes, it's great for the economy to have these jobs here. It'd be great to have it, but what could those people have done had those jobs been here? How many other companies would have been started? How much innovation, have we lost out on, as a country, because we haven't done such a good job preparing the next generation. So that's the part of it that I get really excited about is, not just the immediate benefit of having people with the jobs, but like you guys were just talking about, what are they going to do in the future? And, the more that we can have here, the better, right?
No, absolutely. And I think, we've all been in the meetings in the last year or two, right, where I think those companies are now starting to backtrack on that, right? And maybe what made sense 5-10 years ago isn't making sense today from an IP perspective, from a communication perspective, from a cost perspective. So I think we're starting to see a slow shift, and I think we can help solve that, that problem as well, right? Is bringing back some of those jobs here.
100%. Well,
Okay.
I think now might be a good time to shift to the next phase of the program.
Oh boy.
The famous lightning round.
Oh,
Here
boy.
we go, Hany. Are you ready?
Oh, boy.
Lightning
Okay.
round. Here we go. Question number 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at pickleball?
10.
Do you own an orange jacket?
Yes.
Do you have more sneakers than Vince?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I'm not sure about. If you could travel back in time, where would you go?
Ooh. College.
It's not a surprise. Have you ever cried at a UCF game? Oh,
Yes.
This happens to be the next question. Favorite childhood TV show?
Ooh. Three's Company.
What is your spirit animal?
Ooh. Dolphin.
Who would win, Superman or Batman?
Superman.
Where did the name Pina Colada come from?
Oh. Mexico.
What is your most popular nickname?
Oh, wow. Never Nervous Gergis.
If you could be in a movie, which movie would it be and why?
Good question. Iron Man. Because I loved his house. I loved his suit. He was funny.
Okay.
Got a great house.
Yeah.
All right. What sport besides soccer is the most boring sport?
I have a feeling I know why you put that question in there.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but baseball.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say rugby.
I was waiting for that. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh. Turtle.
Wow. If you could invite anyone to dinner, dead or alive, who would it be?
Whew. I'm going to go with just one.
Just one.
I'm going to go with Tiger Woods.
Mm.
Yeah.
Would you prefer to ski or surf?
Ski. Easy one.
All right. That's it. 15 questions.
Are you going to be watching the
kept going.
UCF opener tonight?
Absolutely.
Are you going to cry again? Will it be the second game you've cried at?
If there's tears tonight, it's going to be an awful long season.
I actually cried like a baby after that Duke UCF game a few years ago in the tournament. That was my most memorable cry.
Oh, here's a question that should have been in the lightning round. Who are the 2017 NCAA FBS National Football Champions?
UCF Knights, baby.
Let's go. Undefeated, baby.
God.
Thank goodness I was asking the questions. All right, team.
Yes. Well, Hany, thank you for being on the show. I have a feeling this is going to be a regular occurrence, and but great to get your story out there. I think it's incredibly inspiring. Thinking about coming over from Egypt as a little kid and what you've been able to accomplish. It's and just from my point of view, it's to have a business partner for 21 years, and as close as our relationship is, it's been fantastic. So I appreciate you, brother, and thank you.
I appreciate you, Vince, and all of you guys. Thanks for having me. This was actually a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Hany, if someone wants to get hold of you, follow you on your travel page, where do they find you?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
It's plug time.
It's never_unpacking on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
So the reality is you have a much larger social media following than this podcasting is how it hasn't even been launched yet. So we're going to be requiring some cross promotion.
Yes. I was going to say, maybe I should be promoting you guys, right?
100%.
Absolutely.
All right.
Great.
Thanks for listening to Opportunity Accelerators. We're out.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
This episode of Opportunity Accelerators has been brought to you by SkillStorm, where our purpose as an organization is to launch and accelerate tech careers. Please be sure to like and subscribe to catch the next episode.